All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again.
It's that time. And Paul Moore. The mission to free the world from concern by flipping on those light switches in the brain. Learn, educate yourself, and mastermind with us. And join our Facebook group, Freedom from Concern.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Freedom Ninjas call. This is Brian Brown, Brandon.
Hi, everybody.
And Paul Moore's on the phone. Big Polly. How's it going, Paul?
Man, it's going fantastic. How's everybody doing?
I think it's going awesome. It's going awesome. So last week, were going through Napoleon Hill, and we were talking about a lot about the education system.
Oh, yeah.
Nick, shut your door. I got my kids home today. Today's President's Day, and got the kids to deal with today, and just hanging out, masterminding and stuff, and a little bit about our call. This is basically a Napoleon Hill mastermind, and what we do is we go through the book. Right now we're going through the book Outwitting the Devil. We'll be going through other books by Napoleon Hill, but currently we've been going through Outwitting the Devil. And a little bit about Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil is it was written way back in the 1900s as like a case study before, or actually after Think and Grow Rich. And the thing is it was so controversial, and it was just so out there that his wife and his lawyers, his publishers, all made him promise that he wouldn't publish it until his wife was dead. His wife was like crazy stressed out about it because he's very controversial with the things he talks about in the book Outwitting the Devil. So it was actually published in 1980s, and now it's just a hidden treasure that nobody's heard before. And yeah, it's amazing, and we are so happy that we can share it with everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's funny you say it's controversial. It's not really controversial. It just goes against what the powers that be teach. And for fear of people's feelings getting hurt, it was labeled as controversial. But it's really a roadmap or a blueprint to changing your life for the better. And it's really, you know, liberating for people if they would just get in the material by listening to this call and reading the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what were we talking about last week, Paul?
Well, the educational system, you know, what changes need to be made, right, to move society forward through our young kids, our young ones, and also the power of sex transmutation and the abuse of the emotion of sex.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. We were talking about how, like, in the movies and stuff, they talked about how, like, with fighters and with, like, sports athletes and stuff, that, like, there was, like, this hidden thing, like, they say, oh, don't have sex before the big game or whatever, and, like this, he actually talks about that in the sex transmutation, which is really incredible. That,
absolutely.
you know,
I've been doing some research on that. And there's a lot of science behind that, believe it or not, that scientists are starting to uncover. And it's really, really interesting. It's really interesting how Napoleon Hill, you know, hit the nail right on the head without all this stuff to back it up.
Right. Yeah. So I guess we'll go through, and you want to start it? You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. We're going to play some audio, and we're going to listen to it. Then we're going to mastermind about how we feel and what you think about, and anybody's welcome to share their input and text us or whatever. So you can join us on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/freedom from concern, or you can just search for Freedom from Concern if you want to check us out more and get involved in the community. So here we go.
Is one due by the habit. Habits are contagious. Every habit attracts a flock of its relatives. The habit of doing anything that is useless leads to the formation of other habits that are useless, especially the habit of drifting.
Take a moment to remember that letter writing was about the only way to communicate in the written form when Napoleon Hill wrote this manuscript. As you listen, think about how his thoughts would apply to today's world of blogging and social networking.
But that is not all the dangers associated with the habit of indulging in uninvited expression of opinions. The habit creates enemies and places in their hands dangerous weapons by which they may do great injury to the one who indulges in it. Thieves and confidence men and racketeers pay big prices for the names and addresses of the writers of uninvited letters. Knowing as they do, the writers of these letters become easy victims of all manner of schemes that result in the loss of their money. They refer to the writers of such letters as nuts. If you wish to know how foolish people are who write uninvited letters, read the nut column of any newspaper, the column in which the paper publishes the voluntary opinions of its readers, and you will see for yourself how the writers of such letters antagonize people and invite opposition from others.
Now, I had no idea, Your Majesty, that people get into so much difficulty through uninvited expression of their opinions. But now that you have brought up the subject, I do remember writing the editor of a prominent magazine an uninvited letter of criticism, which cost me a fine position on his staff at a fat salary.
That is a perfect example. The proper place to begin self-discipline is right where you stand. The way to begin is by recognizing the truth, that there is nothing for good or evil throughout the myriads of universes except the power of natural law. There is no individual personality anywhere throughout the myriad of universes with the slightest power to influence a human being, save nature and human beings themselves. There is no human being now living, no human being has ever lived, and no human being ever will live with the right or the power to deprive another human being of the inborn privilege of free and independent thought. That privilege is the only one over which any human being can have absolute control. No adult human being ever loses the right to freedom of thought, but most humans lose the benefits of this privilege either by neglect or because it has been taken away from them by their parents or religious instructors before the age of understanding. These are self-evident truths, no less important because they are being called to your attention by the devil than they would be if brought to your attention by my opposition.
Hill distinguishes our right to have independent thoughts from our uninvited expression of those thoughts. How would you apply this principle in today's world of blogging and social media?
But what are people going to lean upon in the hour of emergency when they know not where nor to whom to appeal?
Let them lean upon the only dependable power available to any human being.
And what is that?
Themselves. The power of their own thoughts. The only power they can control and they rely upon. The only power which cannot be perverted, colored, modified, or falsified by their dishonest fellow human beings.
The only dependable power available to any human being, the power of their own thoughts, the only power they can control and may rely upon. You may not be able to control other people, but you can control how you react to them and their actions. This is an easy thing to say, but much more difficult to do. We tend to want to change other people when we can truly only change ourselves and how we react to others.
That's so true, Paul, huh?
Yeah, I especially like the footnote of, how it plays out in today's society with blogging and social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to laugh to myself about, unwanted opinion or unsolicited opinions.
Right.
That's kind of what, 90% of social media is, It's everybody's got a soapbox now, and they're just going to start spouting stuff off. But the question you got to ask yourself is, how many of those people really took the time to back up their stuff with real facts?
Right.
I don't think a lot of them.
I really believe that, our industry and our society, the way Facebook has changed the trust in our world, because people used to trust, with a handshake, and they used to trust. There was a lot of trust in the world before Facebook, and now everything is considered a scam now. Everybody you talk to is so untrusting, they don't trust anything, like the world's always out to get them, and it wasn't like that before Facebook and social media. It just wasn't, and I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, the way that it's really like deteriorated our trust as a society, you know?
Yeah, you know, technology has made it so easy to get information quickly that, you know, our ability to be skeptical is kind of taken over because we're bombarded with so much information so fast. You know, I think our minds is saying, you know, it can't be true unless, you know, you can vet it through 5, 6 other different places. But you're right. You know, back in the day when you get an email, it was, oh, great. You know, somebody took the time to write me an email. It's kind of like a letter back in the 1900s, you know. So you took time to read it. Nowadays, we get so many emails, and there have been some, you know, unscrupulous people out there that send, you know, Nigerians phishing scams or whatever. So we don't really look at email the same anymore. And you're right, you know, social media is a huge culprit of that, you know.
Yeah, totally. So we have to control our thoughts, and we have to control our thoughts when we write, when we speak, and when we, you know, act on our own accord, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of things that you put out, I'm sorry, Paul, a lot of the things that you put out to this world is exactly what you're going to get back. And, you know, I heard something once that, you know, your Facebook page is the magazine to your life, that people can actually view your Facebook page and know everything about, you know, where you are as a person, you know, as each individual. So, you know, it's important for anybody that is in social media that they understand what you put out to the social media universe it could be very detrimental to your reputation, or it could be very detrimental to maybe impacting somebody else in a bad way. So, you know, if you want your magazine to be a good magazine, you better put good things on that social media page.
I like that.
Wise words, man. That's wise words. I think we have a caller. Is there someone out there named Chase?
Yes, Brian. Can you hear me?
Hey, Chase. Welcome to the
call.
Welcome.
What's up, Chase?
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight or today?
Very good. Very good. Did you catch any of the recording? Do you have anything to say?
Actually, I just joined in. I really didn't get to hear too much of the recording.
Okay, cool. Not a problem. Well, we're welcome to have you, and we're just going through masterminding with Napoleon Hill right now, and you know, we listened to some audio clips and discussed some ideas that helps people just think a little bit clearer and think a little bit more positive in their life, and stop drifting so much. You'll hear a lot about drifting during the mastermind. So, you want to continue on, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just go ahead and continue. For people just dialing in, we're discussing unsolicited opinions and how in today's world, you know, the internet, social media has really taken it to a new level, you know, because people can give their opinion pretty quickly. So, yeah, let's continue on with that.
All right.
All you say seems logical, but why must I come to the devil to discover such profound truths? Let's get back to the 7 principles. You've already disclosed enough information to show clearly that the secret of how to break the power of hypnotic rhythm is wrapped in the 7 principles. You have shown, too, that the most important of these principles is self-discipline. Now, go ahead and describe the other 5 principles you have not yet mentioned and indicate what part they play in giving one self-discipline. First, let me summarize that part of my confession we have already covered. I have frankly told you that my 2 most effective devices for mastering human beings are the habit of drifting and the law of hypnotic rhythm. I have shown you that drifting is not a natural law, but a man-made habit which leads to man's submission to the law of hypnotic rhythm. The 7 principles are the media by which man may break the hold of hypnotic rhythm and take possession again of his own mind. You see, therefore, the 7 principles are the 7 steps which lead victims of hypnotic rhythm out of the self-made prisons in which they are bound.
The 7 principles are the master key that unlocks the door to spiritual, mental, and economic self-determination. Is that true?
Yes, that's another way of stating the truth.
Chapter 11. Learning from adversity. Is failure ever a benefit to man?
Yes. Indeed, learning from adversity is the 3rd of the 7 principles. But few people know that every adversity brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. Still fewer people know the difference between temporary defeat and failure.
Before I lose the flow, I really want to discuss a little bit about the hypnotic rhythm. We learned about it earlier in the chapters, but it's really important to understand what hypnotic rhythm is.
Yes.
It's kind of the thing where you practice something and it becomes programmed in your brain. Let's say you go to work, just as an example, or I drop my kids off every day, after, in the morning. So I drive them to school in the morning, and I'm used to seeing the same thing, the same path, the same lights, the same people jogging every day. And you kind of get into a phase in your brain where you could pretty much drive there without even knowing what you were doing.
How many times have you gotten home and you really don't remember the last 15 minutes of your life? Like, wait a minute, how did I get home?
Yeah, exactly.
That's hypnotic rhythm. Absolutely, and it's kind of dangerous, too.
It's kind of an unconscious programming in your brain that we all have. We all live with it, and we just don't understand it and really don't even realize it's there. But the cool thing is you can use that to program yourself into success by creating little tiny habits just by changing your life. Like, let's say you make your bed in the morning. You don't normally do it. You make your bed, you tie your shoes a certain way with the left thing over the right thing, and you make your coffee in the morning. And you eat an apple. Like Jim Rohn, he teaches about the apple. Like, if an apple a day, the consistency of eating an apple a day can actually change your life and create abundance and success by you teaching yourself discipline, consistency, and honoring, because you're honoring your word that you promise to do something every day. And that little bit of hypnotic rhythm can completely turn your life upside down, like in amazing, amazing success. What do you think? You there?
Oh, you're spot on. You're spot. I thought you were talking. Yeah, you're 100% right. We are going to, either fall victim to hypnotic rhythm, or we're going to use it as a powerful sword for our benefit.
Can you give us an example, like how you would fall victim to hypnotic rhythm?
Okay. How about this? You hear all your life that money is bad. You see people who are doing a little bit better than you, whether they're driving a nicer car or whatever, and you get into the habit of going, oh, they probably stole it, or oh, they probably didn't deserve it, or oh, they probably did something evil to get that. Yeah, it may seem innocuous at first, it may seem like a little bit of nothing, but throughout the years you keep thinking of that pattern. So now you're trying to run a business, but for some reason you built the habit of thinking that acquiring money means that you have to be evil to get it, which is against your nature, so you keep defeating yourself. Break that habit by going, oh, money is one of the best tools we can have living in this country. Congratulations to that guy that bought that new car, because they probably helped quite a few people to go get it.
Right.
Build that habit and get into the rhythm of thinking positive thoughts towards money. Then in your business, on your job, or whatever you decide to do, you are not hurting your success by having the habit of thinking negative thoughts. You're helping your success by having the habit of thinking positive thoughts.
Right. That's awesome. Do you have any examples of hypnotic rhythm that you've noticed in your life?
Yeah, well, the thing I got to say is that, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you have that opportunity to put yourself in a good mental state, to set the path for your day the second you wake up. Some people just roll out of bed and get into just such a routine of, you know, making their coffee and, you know, getting the kids ready for school and, you know, just getting everything together to rush to go into work. And then the rest of the day doesn't necessarily turn out the way they would have liked it. You know, that there's things that'll happen in their life that is unexpected, but maybe if they woke up and they didn't stub their toe when they got out of bed and they prayed to God or a higher power and they put themselves into a state of mind of being successful, receiving things in abundance, and what do you say, Brian? God's favor.
God's favor. Yeah.
God's favor.
Asking for God's favor.
Asking for God's favor.
Right.
And that's how, you know, things are going to come to your life in blessings. Absolutely. In that direction. So it's about programming yourself the second you wake up, so the rest of your day can be the best day of your life.
Yeah, I call that, reacting to life. So you can choose to react to life, or you can choose to act in life. You know, that there's a choice there every single day you get up. You want to react to life and react to what happens, or do you want to act in purpose in your life and create your life? Because you are writing your story every step of the way. Every minute you're breathing, you're writing your story. Are you going to write it, or are you going to allow life to write it?
And once you master that, that is the secret to life. You can write your own story, and you can visualize it before it even happens and prophesize over it before it even happens. And that's when magic happens. That's when your faith is stronger than ever, and you have control of your own life and what way you want to go when you can master your thoughts in that way.
Yeah, Jim Carrey talks about that in that video on Freedom from Concern. You can find the Jim Carrey video at the top. Jim Carrey talks about that the key to life is to have faith in what it is you ask the universe for or ask God for, and sorry about that, and work towards that goal that you ask for with faith and conviction that you know it will happen. And yeah, that's amazing. Are you there, Chase?
Yes, I am.
What do you think about hypnotic rhythm? Have you noticed that in your lives, or noticed that, you know, around you or anything?
You know, I do notice it a lot. It's I mean, it seems like the same thing every day when I get out of bed, and this is before I even met Brandon. And before I met Brandon, I used to get out of bed every day, and I would go to the same routine. I would go to school, do everything, and it's like by the time I get home and I do all my homework and I finish work, I mean, it's 11 o'clock at night, and it doesn't even feel like I'm living my own life anymore, you know? But now that I'm speaking to you and I'm speaking to Brandon, it's really mixing up my life, and it's making it a lot more exciting than usual. And I mean, you're right. It's when you're getting that routine, I feel like it's just the devil. I mean, it brings you down, it depresses you. But once when you could find someone to help you out and you just talk and mix it up, it just makes everything so much more positive. It's a better vibe.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Jim Rhodes, one of my favorite mentors. He's dead now, but he teaches how that little tiny thing is just an apple a day. And if you talk to people that can do it, that can actually do an apple a day, they'll tell you how much that consistency of that piece can change your life in amazing, amazing ways, because you're honoring like truth to yourself every day when you say, oh, I'll skip it, I'll do it. But if you actually go out and you find that apple, make sure you always have that every single day, there's so many things you're changing in your personality by being consistent, persistent, never allowing, failure, and just truth to everything that you do. It's cool. It's cool. So you want to keep going, Paul?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
I love Jim Rohn.
If this knowledge were generally known, I would be deprived of one of my strongest weapons of control over human beings. But I understood you to say that failure is one of your greatest allies. I got the impression from your confession that failure causes people to lose ambition and quit trying, and then you take them over without opposition on their part. That is just the point. I take them over after they quit trying. If they knew the difference between temporary defeat and failure, they would not quit when they meet with opposition from life. If they knew that every form of defeat and all failures bring with them the seed of unborn opportunity, they would keep on fighting and win. Success usually is but one short step beyond the point where one quits fighting. Is that all one might learn from adversity, defeat, and failure? No, that is the least of what one might learn. I hate to tell you this, but failure often serves as a blessing in disguise because it breaks the grip of hypnotic rhythm and frees the mind for a fresh start. Now we are getting somewhere. So, you have confessed at long last that even nature's law of hypnotic rhythm can be, and often is, annulled by nature herself. Is that correct? No. That is not stating the matter accurately. Nature never reverses any of her natural laws. Nature does not take away a human being's freedom of thought through hypnotic rhythm. The individual gives up his freedom by abuse of this law. If a man jumped from a tree and was killed by the sudden impact of his body with the earth through the law of gravity, you wouldn't say nature murdered him, would you? You would say the man neglected to relate himself properly to the law of gravity. I'm beginning to see. The law of hypnotic rhythm is capable of both negative and positive application. It may drag one down to slavery through loss of the privilege of freedom of thought, or it may help one rise to great heights of achievement through the free use of thought, depending on how the individual relates himself to the law. Is that correct? Now you have it right. But what about failure? One does not fail intentionally with purpose aforethought. No one encourages temporary defeat. These are circumstances over which the individual often has no control whatsoever. How, then, can it be said that nature does not take away one's freedom of thought when failure destroys ambition, willpower, and the self-confidence essential to make a fresh start? Failure is a man-made circumstance. It is never real until it has been accepted by man as permanent.
Whoa! Okay, that just blew my mind. Failure is a man-made circumstance. Failure doesn't really exist. How cool is that? How cool is that to understand?
Don't you wish this was taught in school?
Failure is all a figment of our imagination because we choose to give up. Damn! That's crazy! That is so crazy.
Failure is not real.
Failure is just imaginary. Wow, that's something to just sit there and marinate on. That's insane. And I like how he said failure can actually break the law of hypnotic rhythm. And what that means from Napoleon Hill's teachings is that if you fail and if you choose to try again and to learn from that failure with adversity, every time you choose to learn from that failure with adversity, you're choosing your own path, which means you're breaking hypnotic rhythm, and you won't get stuck in that, which is, that's the key. That's the key right there. That's crazy.
Awesome. I think of it as, let's say you're on an island trying to get to a beach where you got some boats waiting for you to take you back home, and you have this thick forest between you and the beach. Well, as you're chopping through, the branches hitting you in the face are little adversities along the way. You may have a big adversity of a stream that you got to cross, whatever. But until you decide that you're not going to continue forward, if you're just going to sit there, camp out, and just lay there and die, you haven't failed. You know, sure, another branch is going to hit you in the face. Big deal. Take out your machete, cut it down. Learn to crawl under them. Learn to jump over them, whatever. You know, you're going to get to the beach so you can get to that boat and get home. But until you say, oh, wait a minute, this stream is just too big to cross, or this tree is just too big, and you just decide to lay there and just say, forget the boat, then you fail. That's a decision and a choice that the person going through the forest has to make for themselves.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to do a PowerPoint with that. That's cool. That's a really good way of looking at failure. I look at failure like, you know, because we're marketers, you and I, Paul. Like, you know, you do an ad, you know, for, you know, so many clicks or whatever, and you fail. Like, you fail and you fail. Like, you got to do an ad 10 times before you find one that works. Like, you cannot quit. Like, you know it's going to pay off. You just have to find the right ad that's going to do it. And
that's right.
You know, that's the same with life. Like, if you're trying something, you can't try 3 times and say, oh, that's it, I'm going to try 3 times. I mean, you have to try until you get it, with that faith and that belief that it's going to happen, and then it just happens.
Yeah, we had a marketing campaign fail just last week.
Totally.
I'm excited.
Oh, I know, really.
Exactly. That's a good point. Is you're excited. Why, Paul? Because you know there's a breakthrough right past the failure. You know, and that's what it is. It's,
right.
It's identifying your emotions and saying, you know, okay, this happened. I understand that this wasn't planned. It's unfortunate it happened, but I know I'm going to get past this, and I'm going to be able to be better off than I was in the first place. So the devil does try to, you know, test you and try to put that failure and that fear in your head by throwing an obstacle in front of you. But if you can control your thoughts and say, you know what, it's just him trying to take over my thoughts. Forget him. I know I got a breakthrough ahead. I know the next thing I do is going to be my blessing and my gift. You know, and put that behind you. Don't let your failure drown you.
That's awesome.
That's right.
What do you think, Chase? You there?
I'm still here. I'm just still amazed about the whole failure is man-made. I mean, I just can't get around it. I mean, Paul gave a very good example that I really don't think I could top. But, I mean, you know, it's just failure is man-made. It's all in your head. And once when you could get past it, I mean, you know, I don't even know what to say.
Awesome, awesome. It's not real until you accept it as such.
That is
exactly
so amazing. So amazing. I guess we're going to keep going. Here we go, Paul.
Stating it another way, failure is a state of mind. Therefore, it is something an individual can control until he neglects to exercise this privilege. Nature does not force people to fail, but nature does impose her law of hypnotic rhythm upon all minds, and through this law gives permanency to the thoughts which dominate those minds. In other words, failure thoughts are taken over by the law of hypnotic rhythm and made permanent if the individual accepts any circumstances as being permanent failure. That same law just as readily takes over and makes permanent thoughts of success.
Failure is a state of mind. Therefore, it is something an individual can control until he neglects to exercise this privilege. Can this be true? Has Hill convinced you that failure is a man-made circumstance? I believe he makes a compelling case. If I look closely at my life, my own successes and failures in business, mistakes and missteps, can I claim that anyone is responsible other than myself? Will a personal inventory of your life yield different results? Hill has helped me place a different value on failure than I did in the past.
What part then?
You know, that brings me back, way back to my mentor, Joe, where he taught me about Ben Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was so analytical about his failures that he would write down at the end of the day what were his failures and what were the things that he didn't accomplish, and how that can create incredible thought patterns for you to strive to go past those things, you know? That's incredible.
You're right. And that's one of the habits that he built up of writing down his failures to constantly learn from them. You know, how many of us have the or allow our egos to get in the way for us not to look at our failures daily like that? You know, most of us will go, oh, you know, I failed. Oh, I can't let anybody know that I failed, or I feel bad about failing. No, you know, how many of us understand what failure is? You know, it's a learning opportunity. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a learning opportunity to take that step, look back, and say, okay, I don't want to do that again. Now I'm going to try it this way.
I'm going to take a quote from Jim Rome, which is one of my mentors as well. He says, a formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. So if you work harder on yourself every day and keep going forward, you're going to prosper in greater ways. You know, work harder on yourself than you do on anything. You know, write down the failures that you did at the end of the day so you can educate yourself that, hey, I did this incorrectly, but guess what? Tomorrow's a new day, and I'm going to do it even better. So educating yourself on your failures can bring you faster to success as well.
Speaking of that, I actually really think that, you know, in order to live your life on purpose, you should totally write down what it is you want to accomplish the next day before you go to bed. So you have that in your mind, thinking about those things that you want to happen while you're sleeping at night. And sometimes, man, after saying a prayer or connecting with God or connecting with the universe, whatever you want to call it, and you prophesize that thing that you want to happen, living on purpose, things just start showing up. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. Really, really cool. So, you think that's a wrap, Paul?
I think my cup is full.
Yeah. That gives us a lot to think about. Totally. Well, thank you, Chase, for joining us on the call, and anybody else, thank you very much for listening today. And visit Freedom from Concern on Facebook. Join our Facebook group. Check us out. Thanks, Brandon, for hanging out with us today. And
thanks for having me.
Check us out every Monday at 9:57 a.m. You can look at our blog, freedomfromconcern.com, and that's a wrap, man. Everybody have a wonderful day. You got anything to say, Paul?
That's right. No, man. Make every day, live every day like it's your last one on earth.
The Freedom Ninjas, Brian Brown and Paul Moore. The mission to free the world from concern by flipping on those light switches in the brain. Learn, educate yourself, and mastermind with us. And join our Facebook group, Freedom from Concern.
All right, see you later.